I want to start out here, Clement, which is, what were your thoughts when you saw this bracket draw, where we had this crazy draw where all of LCK was on one side of the bracket with G2, and then Fnatic and the LPL was on the other side? Because, I mean, on paper, right, that had a lot of people, despite like them not looking super great in the groups, that had a lot of people thinking, cool, at least we're going to get that top in the final. Like, awesome. If they only have to beat the other Chinese teams, I mean, they're going to beat JDG. Sunning, of course, they would beat, like... Did you actually think like this was going to be like a Chinese strong Worlds when you saw the bracket?
Yeah, I did actually think so. So I will say this, that I'm not in China, like not in Shanghai. So I haven't been in touch with like how good Suning have actually been in scrims and all that stuff. But, you know, judging from their performances throughout playoffs and seeing all of their games throughout the year, I actually didn't have a very high opinion of Suning coming into Worlds, and even after their group stages, I was not particularly sold. I felt like their games against G2 were actually very, very messy, and they couldn't close. So when I saw the bracket draw, my first impression was that it was most likely going to be top esports. And I know this is kind of like, you know, echoing your fanboys, but I thought it was going to be Damwon from the other side as well going into it.
I mean, for me, when I saw, I saw, so obviously I thought Damwon would be there from the other side. We can have a talk about G2 later, but I think it's remarkable G2 managed to get to the semifinals of this World Championship. It's like almost the worst possible meta you can possibly imagine for G2, and they still somehow got top 4 and made it look convincing until the final 2 games against Damwon. Especially after group stage, I didn't think Damwon were really tested that much in groups. They were in the same group as JDG, but they won one game off kind of a level 1 cheese and then lost the rematch, kind of got out-rotated in the rematch. But because JDG dropped games elsewhere, they won the group comfortably.
And it was also implied, right, that maybe Damwon was like fucking around in that game because of like their position in the group, and obviously you don't want to reveal everything. Like you might play that. If fans don't know, those ones are harder to count as like fully legit results because it's not like it was an elimination game or something.
Yeah, but the big thing for me was this was kind of the battle for, how do I say, the soul of China, of Chinese League of Legends. I was really excited for this. So for people that don't follow China much, I'm going to make a sweeping generalization. It's not strictly true in every situation, but basically in China, there's kind of 3 different schools right now for how you should play League of Legends. You can either play League of Legends through 1 lane, you can play League of Legends through 2 lanes, and you can play League of Legends through 3 lanes. Historically, IG were the team that really liked to play through 3. Most teams in China play through 2, and Top kind of have spent most of this year kind of just running it down mid, almost like we would imagine NA style would be. They don't always run it down mid, but like their default, maybe 60 to 70% of the time, before objectives, it should just run 5 people down mid, or to run 5 people through side and then into mid. For me, I never thought that this was the way that you should play League of Legends. So although I saw that Top were kind of the favorites, I was secretly hoping that either Suning or JDG, I thought JDG would actually be the team to do it. But basically the meta in China this year has been really, really wild. I mean, there were situations where teams were trying to play 3 lanes. Like you saw FPX early in the season when they had Khan, they were trying to play 3 lane style. So were IG. And what was happening in China is teams were going like, I think I saw games where people went 4 sweepers and a blue trinket, or they would go like, you know, they draft double engage from bot lane, engage from top lane, and then just like force you to not play 3 lanes. And Top just took it to and tried to always play fewer lanes than you and engage when you're in the mid lane. And Top just took this to its final conclusion. And to me, that kind of League of Legends isn't very, how do I say, beautiful League of Legends.
It's kind of brute force League of Legends, right? Yeah.
You run it down with a fist and you smack your opponent in the face.
I'm very curious about the aesthetics, but I'm going to leave that aside for now. And I just want to like kind of echo maybe and bounce off ideas about like from how I see things and kind of explain some of this to our viewers. So the way Top Esports kind of plays is that they are a team that are defined, like I think most top teams are actually defined by what they cannot do, like their weaknesses. They play around that to a large degree. And what Top Esports does is that they actually don't really have much engage on their team. So the way that they actually do it a lot of times is that they actually put themselves, like they overreach in terms of their situations and they force you to come to them. And I think this is very, very different from like the way IG does it. IG knows that—
You're talking about tactical inting there, Clement. Like
yes.
Okay.
What IG does is they try to leverage their mechanical advantages instantly. They head straight for your jungle. They try to look for fights. But what Top Esports does is different, and it's kind of the opposite, is that what they try to do is they try to make sure that that mechanical gap is as large as possible, and they sit in front of places where they should not be, and they dare you to come into them. Like they do this a lot, and you can see the Fnatic games and like the DRX games where they do this. They're basically 5-man in the mid, and they're poking at your tower, and they're saying like, please engage on us, please engage on us. We can't do this, so how about you be the one to take a try it?
And in fact, this is why Fnatic, for people that haven't watched that much Top outside playoffs, this is kind of what Fnatic were able to exploit to make the series close against Top. So Top, one of the ways that Top will try to make you engage on you is that they'll give up early dragons and they'll just take Herald, for instance, and they'll try to snowball and that kind of thing. And what Fnatic did is they took their free Drake, they gave up Heralds, and then instead of fighting later Drakes, when Top would just group as 5 and go into Drake, they would just say, okay, have your Drake. We're just going to take all your jungle camps top. We're going to take your mid tower. We're going to take your top tower. And this kind of worked for 3.5 games. And then it stopped working. But this was, to me, like, in a sense, I'm glad that top lost, because it kind of shows that the teams were able to finally adapt to it. But it's just interesting that this is kind of the way that things have gone. I mean, JDG in their games against Top this season, especially in the finals, they would try to play 2 lanes all the time, and Top would just be there as 5, just sitting in their jungle or sitting in their mid lane and just pushing all the time, until JDG kind of lost their patience and ended up losing that series. So it's a really, really interesting clash of styles to me on the LPL side. On the LCK side, I thought it would be G2 versus Damwon, and maybe if G2 found a way to play out this meta, maybe they would have a chance, but Damwon were always going to be favorites going into that best of 5.
We'll get to that, but one thing I want to come back to on the Top side, because this is another thing where, as we're saying, let's be real, most Western fans maybe watched a couple of the group stage games of Top, and then they watched the Fnatic series mainly, and so to them, unfortunately, they are going to do that classic thing of like, they watched the Sunning series and they were like, nah, this team was overrated, everyone was just saying they were good. Like, it was, what they don't seem to realise is there was a big difference between how this team played in the playoffs of Worlds and how they played at home. Like, I'll give you an example, is when I actually saw the first drafts in the Fnatic series, and I'm not a draft expert, this is just basic pattern recognition. When I saw that and I saw they were losing, I was even saying, like, is this even Top Esports? Like, what even are these drafts? It's like they brought in like a Western analyst like LS, like, this is what you're supposed to draft right now. Because what people don't get is this: when Top was backs against the wall, game 4, they did a draft right that every Western analyst was like, this is garbage, they'll never win with this. And it's like, that is a Top Esports draft. Finally. That is the shit that they would do at home. And as Clement says, it's not about like, they're not trying to like out macro you or like, fuck it. They're just, their logic is like, these are super strong champions, even if they have no synergy at all. And we're just going to try and mechanically beat you. And guess what? I know all the Fnatic fans are like, oh, we were so close. It's like, yeah, but that is what Top does to you. Like, that was one of the few times I felt like I saw the real Top for a moment, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, in that draft specifically, I think what they did was that they realized that they actually did need some sort of a front line. And this is something that I feel like Top Esports has struggled a lot in terms of like their regular season and their playoffs, where they basically almost never put 369 onto a tank. They always wanted him to like crash lane, and I was giving him a lot of attention and stuff like that. At least in this World's run, we did see some sort of adaptation where they said like, you know, we're still going to all sit mid. That's something we're not going to change, but at least we're going to put a front line in front of it to make sure that when people run into us, it's not just like a pure out mechanical skill.
Yep. But to be clear, like I thought Fnatic came in with a really, really good plan in the series.
Sure.
The problem is that I think they gave up on their plan midway through, because the way that you could leverage this, if you know what Top are going to do, they're going to go and pick their strong champions. They're just going to try to snowball it out mechanic you. The way that teams have been able to beat Top in China is normally through top lane counterpick. And this is something that Fnatic did in the series. They put out the Singed into the Ornn. And in fact, if you actually look at the playoff series so far, top lane counterpick has been incredibly important in this series. So just ignoring Damwon DRX. Damwon DRX is just wasn't about draft. But top lane counterpick was 3-1 in the G2 Damwon series. It was 4-0 in the Sunning Top series. It was 4-1 in the Fnatic Top series, and it was 3-1 in the Sunning JDG series. 2-1 G2 versus Gen G, but like that's another series which wasn't really decided by top lane counterpick. And Fnatic came in and they kind of had these kind of cheese picks. And if you're the team if you were Fnatic and you want to go and pull out these sort of unconventional champions, the best person to give that counter pick to is obviously Bripper. And we kind of see this in carry jungle metas. In a carry jungle meta, generally, the meta goes in one of two ways. Either it's a roaming mid meta, in which case, you have your mid laner push, you go in and attack enemy jungle, or it's a feed on the enemy top lane meta, which is which is kind of what this world has kind of looked like it's turned into, which is top laners and junglers playing together to go and snowball off the enemy top lane, and this has made counterpick really, really important. And this is when Fnatic were winning in that series. This is what Fnatic were doing. They were looking for counterpicks top, and then kind of they lost faith in that strategy midway through the series. And yeah, I mean, it was a big contributing factor to what happened later, because even though top had all of these drafts that looked really, really weird on paper and looked like they didn't have much synergy, like Fnatic didn't really have the tools to punish it, because if your last pick is a last pick Kha'Zix into multiple tanky champions that you cannot possibly kill, like why are you giving your last pick to your jungler when Bwipo has so many
weird things he could have pulled out.
Yeah, exactly. So,
because along these lines, like, this is something else I thought was interesting, which is you go from that quarterfinal and you go to semis, and like, listen, we'll talk more specifically just about Suning as a team. Obviously, I want to like have you guys like introduce them and what their past was like and stuff. But one thing I found interesting from the top side here is it's something that when I just did Summoning Insight with Monty yesterday, he was really tilted by, which is when basically I was telling him all year long, like, dude, you've got to watch this Knight guy. He is literally the best player in League of Legends right now. And I was like, listen, this isn't like hype, by the way. I'm not like saying it because like, he had some good carry. I said, even just go look at his champion pool. Like, this guy has the definition of champion ocean. Like, he has every counter. He's usually some of the best on, like, his fucking echo is ridiculous. So he has all these like weird picks no one else can do. And then you look, he's never relying on one champion, even if he's strong on it. Like, he didn't just pick Orianna or Syndra all the time. And so coming into this series, I know now why Monty was tilted, because in this series it's like, good news, Knight, we're just going to put you on Orianna, mate. This game's all, like you were saying there, it's all about top lane counter pick. That's all this series is. So that implies to me something in scrims has happened, or they've observed something about Sunny, because that feels like it was top that was changing up what they were doing there. Like, that, again, that didn't feel like the top I watched in the summer. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on how they get drafted against Suning in that regard?
Yeah, I think there's like, for me, it seemed like Top Esports was trying to do like some of the outscaling a little bit too much against Suning, and kind of giving over some of the early game things, or trying to make sure that the lanes that they were playing around were fewer lanes, or just like try to focus on the top lane a little bit more. And I don't really think this is where Knight is actually at his best. I always kind of seen Knight as the best player when he's in a split push position, when he's able to kind of chop down turrets really fast and try to go into a 1-3-1 style, where he doesn't have to make too many big decisions in terms of like, does he have to join a team fight or not? I actually don't think decision making is like one of Knight's strong suit. I think his best area of play is going into 1-3-1 and having him match up against multiple enemy players, where he can draw a lot of pressure for himself and make sure the team can kind of snowball somewhere else. And yeah, I was kind of surprised they didn't go for that. And I think,
what would you rather have seen him on then? Are we talking like a Carly, LeBlanc? What are we talking about? What champions would you rather have seen him on?
His best champion for sure is the Echo. Like, historically, I think Echo was kind of his best champion. But throughout most of the split, what he has been playing a lot was actually the Syndra, just to get advantages with Karsa. Like, I think when Knight's on Syndra, him and Karsa are probably like the strongest 2v2 duo by a very, very long shot. And you can see in this series that, Suning took that away from him every single game. They made sure that they never got the Syndra, and they never got the mid jungle perfect scenario that Top Esports was very comfortable playing with. But I didn't really expect the default to then be the Orianna, which was a little bit safe and a little bit too much on team fights. I will say this though, like traditionally, like one of Suning's biggest weak points has been sort of the team fighting aspect. And if you look at this series, I think Karsa did a very, very good job to pull Top Esports into a scenario where they had the better team fight compositions. And put themselves into a Dragon Soul point, but they still couldn't convert those team fights into wins, which was very, very sad.
But it was often down to individual outplays. So they said, I think Karsa actually had a pretty good series. But he got them into these positions, and it would just be like an insane Jarvan engage from SOFM, or it would be like a really, really good flank from Sword Art and all of this, and they would just get the outplay. And even if those situations were maybe 60-40 top favored or things like this, and that would just swing the game. The other thing is that in regular season, back in LPL, top spot lane has been one of the best 2v2 bot lanes. They play super, super aggressively all the time. They will punish you really, really hard, and teams haven't been punishing them that hard. But at Worlds this year, especially Fnatic, they were punishing top really hard, and I think Suning also did that a lot. Like, it was remarkable to me because they gave Knight Orianna, so they didn't really have to go mid that often, and SOFM was just camping both side lanes, and he was just going really, really hard, ganking top and ganking bot, and I think that top weren't really used to kind of this amount of jungle attention compared to normal, and they looked off as a result because they didn't have Jackie Love, who's talked about as one of the main shot callers in the team, being in a position where he had the lead to be able to go and carry and micromanage his teammates around the map, and it made cannot remember the name of the support.
Yuyanjia.
Yeah.
Like
no one on the cast actually says it correctly, but I'm sure you can.
It's just his name just escaped me. But he looked really, really bad because
he looked like he was inting. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but it's because they were playing really, really aggressively, like they always did, and he was the one who was throwing himself in the way so that Jackie Love could get out of lane without being too far behind. And this is something that Fnatic really did to expose there's something that you could do. It's something which FlyQuest did actually as well in groups. So it's just, I think teams took a long time to figure out top, because remember, top as a team have only been around for 1.5 splits, because spring split that they weren't there together, and for spring playoffs, like Jackie Love had just joined and it was a new team and they were still finding out their style. So there wasn't that much like video evidence over what you needed to do to beat top. And I think this was kind of the breaking point where teams started to work out, okay, if we go in, let them go mid as 5, go into Drake, and then we go and cross-map them. Or we go and punish their bot lane who's always playing really, really aggressively 2v2. This was kind of the breaking point. And maybe if Worlds had happened, with fewer games or maybe when LPL playoffs were happening, then maybe teams wouldn't have been able to figure out top in time. But I feel that they kind of were figured out in this World Championships.